In this video, we will learn how we can draw borders around the cells in our spreadsheet. Let's say we want to clearly distinguish where the data set begins and where it ends. For example, this set, we would like to draw borders in this data set so that it's clearly visible that this is our data set. And in order to do so, we can, let's say we select just one cell at a time. Let's say I'm selecting cell A2, and I can use this drop down here, and I'm going to click this to drop down menu, and you see a variety of options available, and these are pre-built and preset border options available for us. And you can choose any one. For example, I'm going to choose the bottom border, and clearly, as the name indicates, it will apply a line or a border to my cell A2 at the bottom. And it's not very clearly visible. I'm going to click somewhere else. And now if you see cell A2, there is a thin line here because it has assigned a specific border to cell A2. And we can change this, and if you'd like to go back and select cell A2 and choose top border, and you will now see that there is a top border. And remember that these things are getting added to your existing selection. So for example, the bottom border did not disappear. So if you would like to remove the borders, for example, we can go here and say no border, and that will remove all the borders in this cell A2 now. And then I can go and change this to something else. For example, I can do a right border, and this will create a border on the right edge of the cell A2. So far we have been applying borders only to one cell. You can also apply borders to multiple cells. And before I do that, let me just undo and remove that right border. And now, for example, let's say I want to select all these column names or field names at the top, and then I want to apply a border to all of them. So I can choose one of these, for example, the all borders and or outside. Let's choose outside borders, for example. And this is going to create an outside border for all these 5 cells. So let's see how it looks. As you can see here, these edges here don't have the border. It's only the outside that has the border. And this is an example of the type of control that you can have in Excel to specifically format the way you want the cells to look. And these are presets that are available for you when you select multiple cells. You can also apply some of these. The names are very indicative. I would like you to just try them and see how it changes the look of your cells. But I also want you to know that there are more controls available. When you go and select more borders, this will open up the Format Cells dialog box, and you can also open the Format Cells dialog box by using the shortcut Control+1. And you can see here that we are now in the border area of this Format Cells dialog box. If you remember, originally we have seen the number area, and then now we are in the border area, and we will be talking about the other areas too very soon. So in the border area, you would be able to control exactly how you would like the cells to be displayed or formatted. So you can select the line thickness that you want in your border. You can also change the color of the border line. And also this is where you can tell Excel where I want my borders to be. So we have selected cells A2 to E2. These 5 cells are now selected. So if I, for example, want to remove all the borders, I can just click on this preset none, which automatically will remove all the borders in my selection. And this is a preview. And if I say OK, we can see that even in these cells, the borders will be removed. But before we do that, let's apply a different border. Let's say, for example, I want a thick line on the outline. So I'm going to choose this thicker line here first. And let's say I want another color. So let's say I want a blue color. So I'm going to choose that. And I want this thick line to be only applied to the boundaries or the outline. So I can either go and say, oh, select the top border, the right, the bottom, and also the left. So I can select these four edges separately. What I can also do is, let me do none to bring it back. I can also just choose the outline preset that automatically will apply the thick blue border to the outline. And now, since we have multiple cells selected, we can also control if we want the middle lines here between the cells to have the same border or no border or the different border. Let's say, for example, I don't want any to be appearing in between, so I can just choose OK. You can now see a thick blue border appearing on these cells. So this is great. Now let's choose, for example, the data in our data set, and I'm going to use Control 1 to open up the Format Cells dialog box. Since we recently opened the border area, Excel will automatically open this dialog box with the border. So whatever was the last used option here will show up. And now we can control the line, the border for the cells selected now. And let's say, for example, I want to change it to just thin line in all the cells. You can see here that when I selected these cells, Excel will tell me that there is a thick border in blue color in at the top of your selection, which is true because we just now created the thick blue border on the in row number 2, and that is actually showing up here in the preview. This is great. So if I want to leave that in there, so I can just leave it there, and I can, for example, change a thin line, just black color, automatic black color, and I can just apply it to the inside. Inside means the cells, the edges that are inside the boundaries. So except the outline, everything else inside is called the inside. And so I have chosen to have just this. And let's say, for example, I want thick black on the edges except the top border. So I can choose here, here, and here. Because I have thick black color, it is applying thick black outline, and then I'm not touching the top border because it already has the blue. If I want to change it, I can just apply it, but I would like to keep this display, let's say, for example. So I can now say okay. And now if you look at the data, what you see here is a blue border for the field names, and then a black thin line for inside, and then a black thick line for the border or the outline of our data. Again, there is no perfect or the best method of doing it. The general recommendation that I can give you is make sure that you don't use too many colors, lots of borders or lots of different thick borders, because that can be very distracting for the user or even for you when you're looking at the data. So generally keep it simple. I'm just using these thick borders just for illustration of how to use these borders, but this is definitely something which you have to keep in mind. Depending on the situation, choose the borders as long as the focus is still on the data and how to use and understand the data and not on these colors and formatting.